Okay guys, I had a little crash, getting a little crazy out at the airfield there, and smashed up my Blade 350 a little bit. Just a little bit. I'm hoping it's just the body. It looks like it, all the wires seem fine, have to transfer everything over. And so I'm going to do a video on how to transfer the body over and what's all needed and the steps we had to take to transfer it over. And since I got the new body, I decided to do the painting of the underside here. And this is the first coat with the tester's paint that has the copper in it instead of using the foil tape. And that's for the GPS interference with the GoPros. So I figured I would do a housing wrap with foil tape on the source of the interference, which is the GoPro. And then I would, while I had this apart, do what Randall Lee did, and I'll post a link to his video talking about it also. So basically, through his research, he found the Tester's 1151 paint actually they did contain, actual ground up copper in it, and it sure looks like if you move it around, you can see it like floating in there, suspended in the paint. So we did a first coat on here. We're going to do at least 2 coats, I think, and paint the actual area, because right underneath here is where the GPS or the GoPro actually mounts. So if the interference is coming up, it's going to come up through here more than all the way over here. So, and also over there is where the actual battery's at. So everything is kind of mounted down here, and then the GoPro's right there. So it's not a good place for it. So we're going to do a couple coats of that, and then we're going to show you how to disassemble and assemble the body on here and transfer all these components over, these ESCs and the motors and the cage here for the receiver and the battery and all that, and then reassemble it. First thing we got to do on this quad is take out, what is it, 32 of the 1.5 millimeter screws. They're all over the place. So get those out, and we can start separating the housing halves, and then start pulling the guts out from there. Okay, so the first thing we got to do actually is pull the blades off, and they're 2 millimeter bolts right there, the two, and just keep them in order, because as you can see, they got the arrows on them. They do go in certain spots, and they're different colors front to rear, and then different directions, and of course they match up with the boom here. So take those off, and then we'll flip it over, and we'll start going after all those small screws in the back side here on the underside. Okay, after all those 32 small screws come out, this body will simply lift off of here, and we can toss that, so that's garbage now. And you can see we got down to the guts, and most of it just pushes into place. Some of it is hot melt right there like that, and there's a few more screws for this actual cage here, and then of course we got our landing gear. But for right now, we're going to pull the 4 2 millimeter bolts out that hold these motors in, and you can see the holes right there, and they look something like this. And just take note that they do use Loctite, so going back in we need to use that blue Loctite. So for these LEDs right here, just pull back on these tangs and bend them back, no big deal, because we're getting rid of the body anyways. And then they simply lift up and out of there, so we can get them out without damaging them. So once the LED is out of the way, we can go after this lens. And just to let you know, this lens right here is clear plastic lens right here. Does not come in the body kit. Okay, so this thing has a clear tab right here, and there's one down here. So you just bend those back just a little bit and push down at the same time, and that one released already. And then this one's a little bit harder, being at the angle it is. But you do the same thing, and then it'll pop right out like that. And it won't break the tangs on there then, and they'll just simply snap in from the bottom on the new one. Let's see. You can see you get that little lip to them right there. And that's how they snap in. Alright, so these ESCs right here, they're not actually screwed in or anything. They just simply lift up they got a little bit of sticky tape right here. Just got to unstick it, and that holds the position for the length of the LED here also. So you start getting those off to the side, and they can rest on the table. And then it should be the same for these ones over here. And we'll let them rest on the table. What's nice about these, same as any other brushless motors, they got the little bullet style connectors right here, so we can literally detach and swap in new motors as needed. So that's nice that we can do a quick swap like that. Let's get this one off. There you go from this side. Trying to keep all the wires stuck to the tape the same as they were from the factory. I'll let it rest on the table. Okay, so this mount for the receiver and the GPS on just pulls off, and then you should be able to fish your battery connector through here. It's a little tight, but it does go through. My fingers, there we go. And we can flop that to the side also. Now you can see we're really getting into it. And all we have is the main board left, and we should be able to, because we got to fish the wire through right here for the LED, disconnect from the board, pull it off, and then the same thing has those little, let's see if we can focus on it. It's got those little clear tangs, same thing as the other LEDs. So that'll pop out with the light, and we can disconnect it from the board over there. Now after that, we just have these 4 Phillips head screws. There's one there, already took out. And then over here, same thing. Alright, so as you can see, the whole board has come up. We got all our speed controls and all that stuff attached to it. This gray wire right here, you should be able to see, that one's also a quick connect on the board. And just grab it on each side and pull it up so we don't ruin it. And that one goes down to, I believe, the GPS and the leg here, I'm almost positive. So we'll have to fish that through the body. But besides that, we should be able to pull this whole thing off and lay it to the side. And now all I gotta do is fish this through, because it goes down to the landing leg, and then we can take the legs off and swap the legs over to the new body, and we can leave it attached down here. We just gotta fish it through, that's it. And then the landing legs have 1 screw on each side, and then they just slide out. We'll keep those together, the screw and the landing leg. And you can see it goes down in there pretty far, so there's only 1 screw. So we'll keep them together in their proper orientation so you don't get them mixed up and it's all jumbled when it goes back together. Alright, so we got our legs back on. Tighten these 2 screws up. Make sure you feed your GPS wires through here without pinching them to the other side. Then you can flip it like this, and you can see they're coming through just fine. What we're going to do now is this light up here before you go any further. And I transferred a little sticky tab over. It's like double-sided tape. I just transferred it over, carefully scraped it off the other one, and that just kind of holds the little LED board in place. And then we can just slip it through here, center it best we can. And it does have little retainers in there, and that'll center it in there for you. And make sure you get both these tangs in. They snap in pretty hard, especially this one. I got this one locked in first, and then this one, and then your board will just sit in there, and that'll finish that. We can get this wire out of the way like so, something like that, and we can start doing the guts. At this point, I'm just going to transfer it over and lay it down. then we know it goes this way because this little antenna wire sticking out right here always faced right here. So we just gotta lay it down in there to where it lines up with those screw holes, and then we could assemble everything else from there. So getting these little pieces in is a little tricky. You got to hook this top part, this big long piece right here, in first, and then do the back part that's smaller. You should be able to see it. Come over here. I got this side hooked, and I'm just going to simply push this one in. And it should go in that easy. After that, concentrate on getting your LED in there. So you're going to put it in there so it's straight and that these wires are not hitting on these two posts right here to actually lock it in. And then you're going to push one of these retainers over with the screwdriver and then push down the LED at the same time. And it'll slide right past the two then in there without any problems. Alright, next thing you gotta do is line up these two alignment slots right here with the two pegs that stick out of the actual body here. Yeah, you can see them right there. Just line those up and it'll fall into place naturally. And then we'll concentrate on sticking on this board down. It still has that double-sided tape on it. Just push it down into place, right? And then all these wires will go down this little channel right here once you screw the motor in. Make sure you put new blue Loctite on there, and then put all 4 screws in for your motors, and they should be perfectly lined up because those alignment pegs on there. And just snug them down. The little lock washers on here and Loctite will do the rest. You don't want to crack the plastic housing. Okay, so I plugged in our LED for the front light. I put the 4 screws into the board so the board gets held down, and I can get this out of the way. And then over here, this gray wire we took out earlier for the landing leg, which I think is actually the compass, the GPS is right here, that we plugged back in. And now we can put this battery cage back in. And up on top of here, make sure you put that battery connector back through before you start pushing this down. Something like that. And then it has 2 alignment pegs on here to line it up, and then once the top part of the body goes on, that'll finish it off. Just make sure you're not pinching any wires anywhere and everything tucks around it really nice. I put an extra layer or 2 of the copper foil tape over this. They had it like half on here and crinkled up on one side, so I fully covered it, which they should have done in the first place. You can see we're looking pretty fancy with all the copper in here, and you can see my routing. And it should all basically fall into place. They're old hot melt places, stuff like that. And then just make sure all your wires are out of these points where the screws are going to come through, and of course the pinch points along the edge here. And just look it over one last time after you push your battery cage in. Should go into these slots right here. This do we never focus right. There's one right there, and there's one right there, on each side of course. So just make sure everything's out of the way and we can start putting the top of the body on. Okay, so what I did for those 32 screws is I actually held it together, right? And then I did the main body screws underneath while it's still upright like this. And then I started working my way out from the center out on these arms, and I made sure that they clamped down really nice like this. Let's see if we can focus. All the way along, because that's where the wires lay. They lay in the bottom part here. So if they're going to lay into those grooves, they're going to lay when it's facing this way, when it's upright like this. So after that, once you get a couple of screws in down the arm, you can flip it over for ease and start working on the rest of these screws all the way out to the end here. Just work your way out. And then after that, make sure you put a little bit of Loctite in your screws, and then line up your props on here so the arrows match the arrows on the arm. And then we're going to pop a battery in, close it up, make sure it all fits in there properly like it used to,